Welcome to a special short edition of the nwcMUSIC Radiophonic Workshops Geek Music Podcast. We have several things to talk about and very little time. Let's just get right to it. So it's a short podcast this month, and it's going to be awfully informal, but I didn't get a podcast out in August, and I wanted to make sure I got something out in September. I gotta tell you, for a summer when I didn't think I was going to play out a lot, or, for that matter, tour at all, I've done a lot of playing out and a lot of touring. I'd like to thank Lin Anqi for having me with them on tour for 8 shows. That was a whole lot of fun. Tormented Artifacts, thank you for organizing Virtual Comic-Con. Playing that was a new experience and very cool. But on my own, I ended up playing Clallam Bay Comic-Con. I ended up playing Jaegercon. I've got a ninja gig arranged. I didn't tell anyone that, but I have a ninja gig arranged at Geekgirlcon this October, and I have an official show at VCON in Vancouver. I'll talk about that more in a bit. But right now, let's talk Jaegercon. If you didn't see Pacific Rim, you're really missing out, and I hope you will find an opportunity to go see it at some point again in 3D. Because it is one of exactly 2 movies, which in my experience actually deserve it. The other one being Avatar. Those are the 2, and only 2 so far, I've seen that were actually helped. In particular, IMAX 3D made Pacific Rim an immersive and amazing experience, unlike almost any other I've ever seen in a theater. I kind of instantly became a member of the fandom, and when a bunch of fans on Tumblr decided to put together Jaegercon, a fan online convention, I, of course, jumped right into that and produced a song in about 4 days. This thing wrote itself. I was writing it as I was recording it. The song's called Kaiju Meet, and it's actually set in kind of an AU, which is a crossover between my Republic of Cascadia world and the Cascadia Mecha Militia and the Dance Dance Revolution demonstration team that they have, and the world of Pacific Rim, wherein they're a giant kaiju fighting mecha, which they call Jaegers, which is, by the way, German for hunter, and has nothing to do with the beer. But I digress, as I do when I'm not really editing. Anyway, Kaiju Meet. It's been really popular. I'm going to play it for you. In fact, why don't I just go ahead and play it right now? Something in the ocean has a bit of an attitude, kicking in the bottom like it's going to burst. Chomping all the sharkies, eating all the salmon, stepping on the coal, but it's gonna get worse. Flipping over bridges, tearing down towns, monorail and ribbons, space needle down. Getting falling over, pilots in tears, record to the rescue. Now we're all here for Kaiju Meet. Better than bacon, Kaiju Meet. Tasty with fries, Kaiju Meet. Kind of mention no protein, Kaiju Meet. Phosphorescent surprise. Barbecue pit boiling under the ocean. Carbonated soda shouldn't turn out so blue. Colors going off because of all of that vision. Bubblegum cider made especially for you. Pop it in the engine, turbo engage. 550 octane, mecha rampage. Jaeger falling over, kaiju went choke. Kaiju to the rescue, see how we stop for Kaiju Meet. Nothing like chicken, Kaiju Meet. It's cholesterol free, Kaiju Meet. Kind of mention of protein, Kaiju Meet. Hot buckets of the sea. Kaiju Meet, the champion's breakfast, Kaiju Meet, good for every mood, Kaiju Meet, kind of mention a repast, Kaiju Meet, it's an all-the-time food, om and om and om, om and om and om and om, om and om and om, om and om and om. That was so silly and so much fun. I want to thank Tereshkova 2001 from Tumblr and Catherine Tewson from Facebook, both of whom contributed vocals to the chorus. I put out a call for Pacific Rim fans who wanted to be in on it to send in files, and who did. It was great. That's actually a free download. I mean, like free, like doesn't even require your email address free, though, mind you, if you want to sign up for the mailing list, that would be super awesome. That's all at crimeandtheforcesofevil.com. There's a monthly newsletter, and I talk about shit. And if you want to throw some tip jar money, that's cool too, but believe me, it is not required or even expected. Just go to the music page and you can download it. But like I said, it came together in 4 days. It was tremendous fun to work on, and it was one of those creative fugues that you get in every so often, and that's just all I did for about 4 days. And I was working 16-hour days, and as far as I'm concerned, it was totally worth it. I had so much fun. So I'm hoping to get an opportunity like that again someday, but I don't think you can really manufacture these. I think they just have to kind of happen. Another surprise convention related that I can talk about now is VCON. That's in Vancouver. It's this coming October. I am an attending professional. I will be doing a workshop. I will be doing a show on Saturday night at 10. And I'll be doing a few panels as well. I've been going to VCON for a few years. It's a lot of fun. I'm really enjoying it. It's a smaller convention on the scale of things. Probably around 700 members, which if you count like Penny Arcade or Jaegercon does and count it as quote-unquote gate, then that works out to around a gate of 2,100, which is kind of a complicated story, right? Because conventions like Jaegercon and Penny Arcade Expo, they all count gate. And that's because expositions and convention center type programs have always counted that way. And the way that works is if one person goes for 3 days, that's counted as 3. They count per person per day. If you're something like VCON or nwcCon, you're counting memberships and releasing that number. And memberships, if you're at nwcCon 4 days, you count as 1, not 4. And the result of that is that nwcCon in particular looks way smaller than Jaegercon or Penny Arcade Expo, and to be honest, it is substantially smaller than either. But it's not 1/20th the size. If I were to estimate a gate for nwcCon, I would put that at around 11,000. So compare that 11,000 versus 70,000 instead of nwcCon's membership count, quote unquote, which tends to be 3,200. And you can see that it's a lot closer. This matters for events like nwcMUSIC, which, by the way, I am running again. That'll be April 17 through 20, 2014. As part of nwcCon, we are a part of nwcCon, even though we are kind of run semi-autonomously under that structure, insofar as we don't have a budget and we rely on them for everything, but, you know, except our own tech. We have our own tech crew. So if you're planning your music schedule for 2014, start thinking about that now. We're thinking about it now. In fact, I've been thinking about it for a couple of months. We already have a lot of interest from good people. If you are listening and it is still September and you want to be a part of this as an attending professional, as a panelist, a filker, a chiptunes artist, a nerdcore artist, some sort of geek music, whatever you do, let me know. You can get a hold of me through the band webpage. Like always, it's very easy to find under Contact. I am absolutely interested in hearing from artists who want to show up. I do have some people already picked out who have already said yes, but I am still looking around for a couple of slots, particularly if you are interested in playing a show Thursday night. Thursday is our experimental night, and I will program all sorts of things on Thursday night because I love experimental night. I think it's awesome. You don't have the biggest crowds because Thursday is not nwcCon's biggest day, but it is a good day, and you will have fun. Also, if you have any panel or programming ideas, now is the time to get them to me, particularly if you want to be on the panel that's giving them. I need to know about that really quickly because our panelist list is due in like a week. I am totally not ready, but they know that because it's kind of a thing. The whole nwcCon schedule doesn't work real well when you're dealing with touring musician schedules, and we have some slack for that, so it's cool. As many of you know, I've been working on a book soundtrack. It's been a very slow project. It's been a little bit backburnered due to scheduling conflicts with some of the musicians who are going to be on it, and scheduling conflicts with the person who's writing the books, and scheduling conflicts with myself. Honestly, it takes a kind of talent, doesn't it? But we are moving forward. I'm going to play a little sample from one of the unfinished traditional tracks. The soundtrack is actually a bonus prize, a stretch goal for the Kickstarter project to put the entire Free Court of Seattle book series back into print after its publisher folded. The original publisher was called Drollery Press. They were a professional publisher. They were ebook only. They didn't make it. It's what happens. And Anna decided to run a Kickstarter. And one of the projects of that turned into, can we do a soundtrack album? The soundtrack album is really heavily traditional. It's probably the last time I'm going to visit my Newfoundland musical background in recording. I mean, never say never. I'm not like saying, no, I would have nothing to do with you, because I totally will. I mean, I can't not, right? It's a big part of my background. Therefore, I will have something to do with it. But 4 of the tracks are specifically Irish tune driven. 3 of them are fairly traditional. 2 of them are very traditional. 1 is less so because there are Japanese characters involved, and I know some Japanese folk music, and we decided to work in Odeo Nihonbashi with a Scottish tattoo and a variation on the Road to Lisdoon Varna that I made that I'm calling Forced March to Lisdoon Varna, because it kind of turned into a military kind of thing, because it's all for a battle scene. Now that I can't play you, but I can play you a little bit of... Can I play you some of that? No, I can't. I will play some of that next podcast. I cannot play some of that this podcast, but I will play a little excerpt, incomplete, from one of the session tune driven tracks. This is a very traditional set, and here, see if you like it. That's Sonny Larson on violin, and Ellen Eads on hammer dulcimer, and me on everything else so far. So that's 1/3 of one of these tracks, because the way that Irish tunes are done is that you collect individual Irish tunes, which are instrumental pieces, and assemble them into larger entire sets, which remain instrumental pieces but are chained together. It is to a fair degree about the flow between the tunes, kind of like hip-hop in that way. Despite being totally different musically, it still goes down to the flow, and that's kind of awesome, really. 2 of them are going to be staged as if they were at actual sessions at actual pubs, and if you don't know what an Irish session is, I'm not going to explain it right now. Look it up. It's kind of cool. 1 is a bit more strongly structured, much like you would do if you were doing session tunes in a performance, in sort of a stage performance, and sort of instead of a cooperative kind of everybody can join in session environment like you have at pubs. And 1, the fight scene, it's as close to an orchestral arrangement as you're going to hear out of me, because that took a lot of work. I'm really happy with it, but it took a lot of work. So anyway, I am into full serious business mode finally on this project, which is why there isn't much of a podcast this month. And why the October podcast, I'm going to try to do one, but I am not making a promise. I'm hoping that once we get past this thing, and mind you, I'm going to just turn right around and start onto Den of Thieves. Den of Thieves being the next full studio album from Crime and the Forces of Evil. You heard it here first. Well, you heard it here probably the second or third time, depending on who you are. But regardless, that's the title. We've got the songs. They're picked out. It's going to be a pretty kickin' album. I'm really looking forward to it. But not till we get the soundtrack done first. Hopefully, once the soundtrack's done, we can get back to the podcast. If you consider yourself a geek musician of some form, I am very much interested in having you on the show. We can talk to you. We can play your music. If you know a geek musician in particular that you would like to have interviewed or heard on this podcast, let me know that. I will go talk to them. There were a couple of people I had hoped to talk to for September, but success happened, and that's super awesome. And they've been really busy ever since. They've wanted to be on here, but just haven't been able to squeeze in the schedule. Such is life in podcasting. So, as I promised, really short podcast this time. I'm hoping that by November we'll be back to normal and you'll start having some more content here with your content. Either way, I hope you had a good summer. I had a lot of fun. Good luck with the autumn, and I will see you again, hopefully, in October. From Supervillain Studios, this is the NWC Radiophonic Workshop.